the I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more.
Isaiah.
Hi.
Dude, welcome, man. We were bitching a little bit before about inside stuff, a little too inside for this. But, dude, welcome. Thank you for taking your time to come in here, man.
This is cool.
I appreciate you letting me reschedule a little because, like I said, I had to go to my son's basketball game and you know, berate him and be like, make the family proud or you're walking home.
Let me open with a question. How old is he?
He's 5.
Okay. All right. That's the perfect age to terrorize them with.
It's a weird age because I want him to have some drive.
Yeah.
Right? But you want him to have some fun.
Of course.
Today was a more frustrating game for me as a parent. Like, I'm joking about it, but I was a little like, dude, you got to pay attention. Because it's like, they would, when he's focused, he likes sports and he's good.
Yeah.
And I just want him to see that, you know, if you focus and try, cool things can happen, no matter what it is.
It's true.
Right? I feel like that's the main reason most people play sports.
Yeah.
And this game, it was more of like he was grabbing one leg and seeing how many times he could spin in a circle, and he's getting in like tickle fights with the other players.
Wow.
Which, like, after the fact is funny, but when you're in there, you're like, focus. Like, but you know, it's all good.
Yeah,
it's all good. That's what. Do you have any kids?
I have a daughter. She's my stepdaughter, but I call her my daughter. Mm-hmm. And she came with the package.
Gotcha.
And raised her. She just graduated from Booker T.
There you go.
And so mission accomplished.
All right, man.
She's great visual artist. Headed off to undergrad in Kansas City.
Yeah, because Booker T is one of the more artistic schools here.
Yeah,
right?
it's the arts magnet here.
Yeah.
And it's a great school. If you get out of Booker T, you go into the world prepared for whatever your art is going to be,
That's
whether
awesome.
it's music or theater or visual art. And she applied to 13 schools, got scholarship offers from all 13. And fortunately, without my prodding, she chose the one I wanted her to go to. It's in Kansas City, which I get to play in. Like, I play in Kansas City maybe 3 times a year.
Okay.
So I can pop in and embarrass her.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter how cool you are. It doesn't matter if you play guitar in a band, touring around. You're still just the nerdy stepdad, right?
There is nothing cool about what I do to her.
Have you seen that picture where it's like, I think it's the guitarist from Slayer?
Yeah.
Have you seen that one where he's like giving his like devil, you know, and the little girl's just looking at him like, loser.
Yes.
It's like, dude, he's in Slayer.
That's really how it is. We were in the grocery store and this lady comes up to me and she's wearing one of my band shirts. Mm-hmm. And she comes up, she goes, I was just wearing this shirt and listening to your music. And I just wanted to say that I have a Sharpie. Will you sign my shirt? Yeah. I'm there in flip-flops and shorts getting some ice cream with the kid.
But out of nowhere, like some dark sunglasses come on. You're like, I'll sign that for you.
I'll sign that for you.
Absolutely.
The look of sheer embarrassment on my kid's face was worth it. She was just like, this is not cool.
I mean, yeah, man. I think that's one of the weirdest things with social media now is like you can have super cool things going on.
Yeah.
But to the people that you love and know, it's like, it's really embarrassing.
It is.
You know, I can't wait for my kids to find out. I have a daughter on the way, but I can't wait for them to be older and find out like, oh, you would like talk to people for 2 or 3 hours and record these things. And you thought that was fun. It was like, yeah, we had a good time. Like,
yeah. It was cool.
Speaking of bands, right?
Yeah.
You know, do you call this a solo project now? Because it's the same. You're playing with the same dudes, right?
Well,
is the band The Boss Tweed?
The band's The Boss Tweed.
Okay.
Yes, I guess so. It's a solo project.
Okay.
I never really intended for the guys in The Boss Tweed to be the permanent Boss Tweed. When I started doing this, I kind of wanted the flexibility to work with a bunch of different people.
Yeah.
But these guys are so good.
Well, did you want the flexibility just because of the like the struggle sometimes of like getting everyone on a gig where you can just rotate people in and out, or was it just the experimentation of playing, or all of it?
Both. Yeah. I mean, it was, you know, with the 40 Acre Mule, there were so many people involved, and my kid was practically grown. And a couple of guys had little bitty children and day jobs that wouldn't let them tour and other responsibilities. And, you know, as I looked at what I wanted to do next, I was like, I kind of want the ability to jump when I want to jump.
Yeah.
And so I really didn't want to put put together a band that was always going to be these two guys behind me. But
then the magic happens.
It did, and it wasn't supposed to. It was always going to be Spud Crowley on drums. I knew I wanted to work with Spud on drums. I found Matthew by accident. Originally, it was going to be Chris Watson, very talented organ player, Hammond keys player out of Fort Worth. Great band called the Retrophonics. He's one of those guys that looks at an instrument, give him 5 minutes, and he'll master it. I hate those guys.
Yeah, one of those jerks.
I hate those guys.
Jerk.
So I call him up, say, "Hey man, I'm gonna do this thing, this organ trio. Finally, we had talked about it. It's like ready to go." He's like, "Well, when's the show?" And I give him the date. Well, technically, I got a baby due that day, but let me see what I can do.
No way.
And I was like, I'm not going to blow up your marriage and the birth of your child.
Yeah. He's like, it's not the first one. Don't worry. It's okay.
I was like, no, it's okay. I'll find somebody else. And Dev Wolf, I put out the call and he says, you should try out my keys player, Matthew Vasquez. And I just happened to run into Matthew at a Texas Gentleman show.
Okay.
At Double Wide that very afternoon. And I was like, oh man, I was just talking about you. I got this thing that I'm going to be doing at the Kessler. You want to jump in on organ? And he's real cool dude. And he's like, I'll think about it. And walks away. I'm like, okay. All right. He listens to a few songs I sent him. He calls me that night and says, yeah, I'll do it. And then we have 2 rehearsals before we open for Alejandro Escovedo at the Kessler. Sold out crowd, no pressure.
Yeah.
Standing ovation, nailed it. And I'm like, I got the guys now.
Did he ever tell you what he needed to consider before saying yes?
No, I think he just wanted to make me sweat.
Yeah, just doing the whole like, you're looking through your empty calendar. You're like, let me check. Let me see what I got.
Yeah, what else? I guess I could do this.
But. I mean, I get it though, right? You've played in enough things now where like, you love playing music, right?
Yeah.
But you also don't want to waste time. And some people, hopping into bands with people is never, sometimes it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Even if it sounds good, even if you feel like you click, you're like, this is just such a waste of time. It's not going to go anywhere. There's all these different reasons it might not work.
Yeah. And that was a big concern for me too. I wanted J. Isaiah Evans and the Boss Tweed to work. I had an idea of what I wanted to do with this. I knew how I wanted it to run. And I wanted to surround myself with people that were pulling in the same direction. And the only person I could consistently count on that to be would be me. Other people have vacations they need to take. They have day job responsibilities they need to, and that's fine. So I still have it. I kind of built this mental Rolodex of other musicians that I know can play the parts. And I could, with enough notice, send them the music, get in and rehearse, and we could still pull off a show. But my best show is going to be with Spud Crowley and Matthew Vasquez.
Yeah. I feel for a lot of the DFW musicians who don't have that luxury. Yeah. You'll hear this great record, right, that they put out. They went to one of our good studios and, you were talking about Texas Gentlemen. It's like a bunch of those players are playing in studios making great records for people, right? And it's like you almost feel bad for them because it's like, man, you have these talented people that made this great record for you, and it sounds awesome, but I never get to see that version live because you just can't get a band together, Right. And so you end up only ever watching these acoustic performances from them. Yeah. And I get it. I understand the constraint, but it's just, I always, like, you don't want to criticize anyone because they get to make their art, and I know that's what they want to do. Yeah. But you also want to tell them, like, can you just find that band before you record? Hold out. Make that record who you guys are. That way, when it comes time to promote it and do those shows, we can still get that experience. Yeah. Because the acoustic version's fine. It's fine. If I saw it once and then saw your full band, I'd be happy with both. But, you hear that part in the song from the studio and you don't get to hear it live, whatever that is, Yeah, it's tough. All that to say, I'm glad that the three of you are meshing. And that you can do that. You can play the shows the way you intended the songs to be heard.
It's important to me. We're getting ready to go back into the studio and make the next record. Here in October. We're heading back to Memphis to already work on the next one. And today we were listening to the test pressings of this record that's out here in a few weeks. sitting around Spud's house.
So hold on, the singles you've been releasing is for the record that's about to come out?
Yeah,
and then you're about to work on another
on another one.
Awesome.
We have the songs already for the next one.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
No, but I'm excited that we've been able to become a cohesive unit and feed off each other and come in with new ideas for the songs that I write and these parts. And when we go to the studio in October, we'll be tight because this is the crew that has played together.
Yeah.
We've been already working those new songs into our live show. We rehearse every week no matter what, even if we're off the road, which was really important to me. And these guys are along for the ride and they put in the work. They come in rehearsed up before rehearsal.
I want you to elaborate on that. The few bands I've played in the past, right? I was always the person, pushing more. Like, we should rehearse more. We should play more. We should do it. And I had my own, like, one of our bands, I was like, hey, when I was much younger, right?
Yeah.
One of the first band I was ever in, I was like, we're going to rehearse with the lights off because we got to stop looking at our instruments so much. Things like that. I'm trying to think of that kind of stuff. And, then I run into these people who I realize now when I'm more mature, it's like, I'm never going to mesh well with this other personality that thinks, I don't want to over rehearse. I want this fresh, whatever, and I've never felt like you could over rehearse. You know what I mean? I feel like the fresh excitement is when you take the stage.
Oh yeah.
Knowing nothing is going to be messed up about this song. We're about to we don't even have to think about this song anymore. But anyway, please tell me your philosophy on why you rehearse every week.
It's like this. If you can find people that are willing to do that and carve out that time, sign them up. I, again, was in a band that I still love very much. But again, kids, day job, something always would get in the way. And I'm like you. I was the guy that I wanted to go. I wanted to get it. Let's go after it. And that couldn't always happen. And so being in a situation where my guys know that on this date at this time we are going to be at our rehearsal space, and I might have a new song for us to work on. I might have old songs for us to work on. Well, we're going to work. Even if we just get in the room together and jam on something. Hey, let's try a cover of whatever. Let's do Green Onions. Let's try Green Onions in F sharp. Let's see what happens, and it'll stumble through it and it'll be terrible. We'll get a good laugh out of it. But it's the camaraderie you build through that too.
Right.
And in that situation, you find something. You're not just bonding, but you're becoming a better musician. You're learning to feed off of each other, and you maybe find something in a song that you didn't know was there before. We have a new song called Make It Out Alive that'll be on the next one, and it's starting to really kill with audiences. And I wasn't sure about that song when I first wrote it. And the first time we had it in rehearsal, it was okay, Then we were playing around with that old song Spirit in the Sky. And I heard something in that Matthew was doing on keys. I said, whoa. Let's take that, and I want to plug that into this bridge here and Make It Out Alive. And you stumbled across something, just goofing around. But that happens when you're in the room together all the time. You're working, getting to know each other, getting to know each other's playing styles and habits. It makes you push each other too. You become accountable to one another. Plus, it's just a good reason to get out of the house
right
once a week. I love my wife and child dearly. But I love going to rehearsal and just hanging out.
That's what always, I think, confused me is they would view it as work. I'm so sick of working on this. And I always viewed it as like, we get to do this.
Yeah.
We get to play and like, people don't have an outlet all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, even if this is a kind of a stressful rehearsal, this is fun stress.
Yeah.
The stuff I always enjoyed about rehearsal was there's all these little things you do as a player. Like if you and I were in a band, if we're both playing guitar, right? And you're also on the mic singing. So naturally I might take a few more like lead parts or something. It's like even just standing off to the side of you while we're rehearsing, I feel like I'm picking up on a lot of your nuance of like, oh, every time he's about to do this, like there's a little shoulder turn or something, or like he always does a little look down before this thing. And all of a sudden you start to learn each other's cues.
Yeah.
So then that live show tightens up without even trying.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's like you would know, like, oh, if he's about to take that solo a little bit longer. This, he would have already started moving towards his pedal if he was going to shut it down now.
Yeah.
Like those little things.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's like the tightening it up in rehearsal then gives you that freedom on stage.
Absolutely.
And so all these people who are like, I just want something organic. In my mind, I was always like, by knowing the blueprint perfectly, we can then be loose.
Absolutely.
But we got to know the blueprint, know?
Absolutely.
But I think a lot of that too is just my youth not being able to communicate that.
Yeah.
Instead you're just like, we got to practice.
Yeah. And it gets rid of the panic. The sheer panic that can happen on stage when you're absolutely lost. Like, and it still will happen. We were playing a benefit in Denton a couple of weeks ago and trying out a brand new song. And at the top of it, I was like, wait, am I in the wrong key or is Matthew in the wrong key? And I looked at, just like 2 chords in, looked at Matthew and he's like, G. I'm like, oh yeah. I was thinking about the other one. Okay. And then, but immediately fixed. But we knew right away something's off.
Yeah.
And we were able to fix it very quickly. You build that camaraderie through rehearsal and doing the work. And that's all I wanted. I want to play the music. I want to write good songs and play good songs with people that want to go for it too.
Well, when I messaged you, I told you I got to catch y'all at that Eddie 9-volt show.
Yeah.
And it's like if I'm going to a show, because that one was like a weeknight, right? I think that was like a Tuesday.
Yeah, it was a Tuesday. Yeah.
And I didn't know who was going to be opening. Yeah. He was on my radar, and genuinely, I was like, I don't know if I'll ever see this guy on this small stage again coming through Dallas.
Yeah.
This is probably the last small stage like that.
Yes.
And you've played Sundown before. I've said it on here before, that venue should not be as good as it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just they pay their sound guy really well and he's dialed in that room or what.
Yeah.
But it sounds so much better than it's supposed to for the way it's set up.
Yeah, to be basically a restaurant gig.
Yeah. And then just all the little things that work against it, like you got to walk in front of the stage to go to the bathroom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or like all these people who are like cutting through to go to the patio,
Yeah.
all that stuff. It's like, it shouldn't work, but I have yet to see a bad show there. The venue's phenomenal. And so I was just thinking, I'm never going to catch him, 15 feet away. And if I do, it's going to be on this tall stage, it'll be at the big
Festival
Granada.
date. Yeah.
And, sure enough, there's going to be all these little moments that you remember. It's like, he swapped out his strings. So he's like tuning issues and also, but then the little things that I love noticing, like, okay, this guy doesn't use any pedals. He likes going straight into that amp, that kind of fun stuff, you know? And, but anyway, when I got there and, saw you guys were opening, I was like, that's right. These guys are here, like, how long has the band officially been together now?
We're coming up on 2 years.
2 years. Okay. When did y'all start releasing singles though?
About a year ago.
So kind of about a year with music out.
Yeah, about a year with music out.
So that's kind of was my thought. I was like, that's right. He started a solo thing. Let's check it out.
Yeah.
And I think all the effort y'all been putting into it, I mean, it sounded tight. And that crowd was fully locked in, which I know you can do that, but, it's always harder as the opener. It's always harder as the opener to hook them the way y'all had them that night.
We had just gotten off the road. And so we were tight. We'd been on tour with J.D. McPherson.
Mm-hmm.
And we got back on Sunday and then played that show Tuesday night. So we were tight.
Yeah.
It
shows.
We had been playing our best shows on that tour. Mm-hmm. And we're like, oh, Sunday. And it was important to me to get another crack at Sundown. My last Sundown show, I don't even count it as a J. Isaiah Evans The Boss Tweed show. It was that bad.
Really?
It was that bad.
What happened? How did it fall apart?
Circling back around to what we were talking about a cohesive band structure.
These stories are always so much more fun than the show went well story.
Yeah. So Spud had a date he could not make, and it was kind of short notice, but we had he was going to have to be out. And so we found a fill-in drummer, and he is wonderful. I'm not going to throw his name out there. He is a very talented drummer, but he just did not have time to rehearse with us. Mm-hmm. And we never got into a room with him.
Man, so y'all are just hopping up there, no rehearsal.
He had the songs,
That's
and
tough.
we were just going to have to go on faith that he was ready. And you can think you're ready until it's time to play.
Yeah.
And it was not ready. And it was one of the early shows in the history of the Boss Tweed. But I wanted another shot at full strength in that room.
Mm-hmm.
And I went in there knowing that we were tight. We were coming off the road, off great shows with a great headliner. And we went in there with the mentality of we are going to kick Sundown at the Granada in the teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And we did. And I walked off that stage sweaty and doing like a Mick Jagger strut because I wanted my revenge and I got it.
I love hearing the backstory afterwards because there was a certain amount of bravado, let's just say, on that stage that night. Good for you, man.
Yeah.
Especially like what a great setup too, because his fans just, they're primed. Like they will love your music as long as you get up there with a good performance. Right?
Oh, yeah.
That's the crowd. That's the one you're looking for on these shows.
He was so cool.
Yeah.
He was as cool. I've been wanting to play with Eddie 9-Volt for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, well, man, I hope he's not a jerk or something. Absolute opposite. His entire band, the coolest dude. They were such a good hang.
Yeah.
Such a good hang.
I think the only thing he'll struggle with is I think when people initially see his look and kind of his vibe, or they hear him talk the way he talks,
Yeah.
I think they're going to believe he's putting on this act because you see so many people try to like co-opt that vibe and that personality. So then when you see the real version of it, you're already a little cynical. You're like, oh, one of these, this. But like I said, we've been listening to him for a while, me and my wife, and dude, early when he released, what is that album? Capricorn.
Mm-hmm.
It's like my son was like 2 years old and he was getting hooked on that Yellow Alligator song.
Yeah.
And he was like, we'd be like giving him a bath or something, and no music, he'd just be singing it. And for a little kid, that's a lot.
That's great.
And no, I shot him a video on Instagram. He like hadn't kind of blown up yet.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, dude, showed that to my fiance. Awesome, like very down to earth, dude. And I was like, that's cool, because you just want people to know like people are listening to this, we enjoy it.
Yeah.
But you never know how they're going to respond to that stuff, like whether they're going to be too cool or whatever. So after that, I was like, yeah, I hope he pops off. That seems like a genuine,
he is
not too cool for anybody kind of guy.
He's very, what you see on stage is with him is who you're getting off stage.
Yeah.
We were hanging out at the bar, having a couple of beers after the show, and I'm like, you're the same dude.
Mm-hmm.
Just same dude.
I was worried I might have hurt his feelings though. Everybody's buying merch,
Yeah.
And somebody kicked off this whole like autograph the merch stuff. And it's nothing to do with him. I just don't care about anybody's autograph. I've never been a person who wanted a signature of anything. And so I bought a vinyl and he starts to like split up. I was like, oh, you don't have to do that. Don't worry about it. And I was like, and he's like, oh yeah, no problem. But when I was walking away, I was like, I bet that sucked.
What's funny is I was standing right there when that happened.
Oh, for real?
I was standing right there when that happened. And I just remember kind of corner of my eye. I was kind of like, ouch.
Yeah, because it was just like, I didn't mean it that way. I just don't want anyone's autograph, really. I get it. But
I actually,
never mind.
Actually don't. I don't know what it is about it. I'm honored if somebody wants me to sign something that's not a check or a contract.
Yeah.
That's cool. But I don't know. It just feels weird.
Feels weird, right?
Yeah, it feels weird.
I get it a long time ago before social media.
Yeah.
Where it's like, like it was proof. Like, oh my God, we saw Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you didn't. No, I got his signature.
Yeah, that's him signing
right.
This
and
baseball.
It's like you didn't see pictures of people every day.
Yeah.
You didn't. I get it back then.
Yeah.
It's like, but I'm never gonna sell this vinyl to anybody because of the signature on it.
Right.
If it gets passed down to my kid, hopefully he listens to it, but he might just throw it all away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a real possibility.
It's a possibility that I have this record for a good, 50 years and then it's gone, right?
Yeah.
The signature, but I realized I was like, in my mind, I was thinking like, don't worry about pulling the plastic or anything off because there was a line, like, let's get through. Yeah. But it came off as like, no, thank you. Not you. Not your signature.
You're going to deface it. Don't write all
he
over
was
the
signing so many. I'm sure he forgot about me quick. I doubt he's laying in his bed like, that son of a bitch in Dallas. If I ever figure out who that is. One day when he's giving an award speech, he's like, it took me 10 years to get over that person in Dallas.
I'm going to message him tonight. He's like, dude, you're not going to guess who I did a podcast with. Remember that dude that did not want your signature? Bro.
The one we were talking about at the bar?
Yes.
You remember him, that asshole? Yeah. You know what I did think was cool at that show where he was talking about how he sold his dirt bike to get that guitar.
Yeah.
That's pretty... Well, you got to love music to get rid of something like that.
And he does. He genuinely loves playing music. He's like, I love being on the road. I love touring. I love seeing the country. I like meeting new people. I like playing songs in front of people. He's that guy too. And if there's a guitar that he was going to do whatever it took to get that guitar. And well, sorry, dirt bike.
There you go.
You got to go.
You just know, man. I mean, you just hope people like that keep getting those good things coming to them, and the songwriting gods, whatever puts those thoughts in your mind, keep working for you. You know,
it's coming for him.
Yeah,
yeah.
And you know, for you guys too, it's like I'm glad y'all are getting those experiences. It sounds like you're getting a lot of really good, gigs that you get to team up with.
We are, and it's a lot of, again, doing it yourself. I'm not afraid to hear no.
So what is your approach when you try to get on shows or tours? Or
I will reach out to the artist. I will reach out to their manager. I will reach out to their merch seller. I will reach out to, whoever's booking the venue. Hey, do you have support in place for this? And sometimes they'll say, nah, we're going to go with somebody local, or they're carrying support.
Do you try to sales pitch them like, here's what we have to offer, or is
of course? Oh yeah.
Are you a little pushier that way?
You've got to. You come in humble, but you got to sell yourself. Nobody. Charlie Crockett said this to me, and it stuck with me. And I say it all the time because it's true. Nobody's going to work harder for you than you. And yes, I have an agent. My job is to continue to hustle like I didn't, like nobody's ever heard of me. If I'm lucky, hey, I've heard of you. We got an eye on you. And I'm starting to get that now. Yeah. Like you're on our radar. But I act like you have never heard my music. You've never seen my band. Here's a clip. Here's my press kit. Here's who I've been on the road with. I'm doing the song and dance to try to impress you because I need to get on that stage. And yeah, you may... in the old days, early on, you were lucky if you got 200, 250 a night. Fortunately, we've graduated to a little higher pay than that. But it's an opportunity to sell some T-shirts. Right. And I can't get that opportunity unless that talent buyer says, yes, come play on this show. That artist booking agent or the artist themselves say, I'd like for you to come out on the road. It's a lot of word of mouth, too.
Are they approaching you, or when you approach them and you're getting a positive response and it seems like things are going to go through, right? Yeah. Are they thinking, okay, you're going to be very complimentary to this act, which will be go well for everyone, or are they hoping that you're going to help them move tickets, or all of the above?
All of the above.
So is that kind of your selling point of like, if we get on this show, we think we can move this many tickets for you as well?
Absolutely, especially if it's a market where we've played and people have been like clamoring for us to come back.
Gotcha.
Just recently, there was somebody emailed me from Kansas City. Hey, when
seems like you're getting traction.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, it's where are you getting radio play? Where have you played before? This lady's very nice. She's like, hey, I've got this foundation. We're throwing a fundraiser. I'd like to have you back in Kansas City. We saw you on tour. We were on tour with Shiny Ribs, and they saw us there. That's a band that we're not a lot like. But we complement, and we're just different enough that we're going to appeal to the Shiny Ribs fan. Yeah, but be different. We're not going to be Shiny Ribs Jr. And that's what a talent buyer's looking for. Can you fit the bill?
I think people forget about those shows, right? It's like as much as I was saying that worked out really well for you, that Eddie 9 Volts fans are going to be into your style of music. Like you know from the jump, okay, it's there for the taking if we want it, right? Yeah. But also, it's like Are you from DFW originally?
Yeah.
You always been here? So do you remember like the glory days of like our radio stations here, like 102.1 and 97.1? And the variety of music you would get on those stations.
Absolutely.
And then you'd go to like the local, like the Edge Fest.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it would just be variety of just like, there would be a band that you thought was super lame, like Like there was one festival here locally, I don't remember what it was, and it's like Sheryl Crow was on it. And I was thinking like, I'm not a huge Sheryl Crow fan, but I'll check it out while I'm waiting on this other band. You know, being all douchey about it.
Of course.
Right. And then we watched Sheryl Crow's set and we were like, fuck, Sheryl Crow's pretty good.
Yeah.
Sheryl Crow's pretty good live show.
Yeah.
And like we left there going like, I think I'm more of a Sheryl Crow fan now than I realized. And that was the beauty of that variety is you think like, okay, blues trio's coming up. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, you're like, I really like the blues trio, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think that variety works in people's favor more than they realize. That you don't sound like the next band is probably going to be a good thing.
We still, it happens. We early on were getting booked with a lot of country bands.
I could see that.
Like I think they were still Mike and the Moon Pies then. They're Silverado now. And that may have been our second show ever out at Lava Cantina. And
great name, by the way, for the cantina. Yeah. Come on, the Lava Cantina. That
Cantina.
Show poster makes itself, right?
The Lava Cantina. But we're out there, and it's a bunch of dudes in cowboy hats, the real deal, the red dirt country music fans. And I knew Mike Harmeyer, who fronts that band, and the other guys in that band. We had been friends for a long time, and got this chance to go open for him. I'm like, I don't know how these cowboys are going to dig this roots rock and roll, blues rock, organ trio thing. Mm-hmm. And so they liked it, got applause, got some whoops and yells, and like, all right, this worked out well. Like, go over to the merch area, and I'm standing there, greeting some people between the bands, and this big old cowboy comes walking up with this scowl on his face. I'm like, this is not going to go well. I'm expected to get punched in the face, cussed out about wasting his time with this rock and roll music or whatever.
Y'all got 30 minutes to get out of town.
But I'll be damned if he didn't stick out his hand. It's like, I just had to shake your hand. That's about the best thing I've seen in a long time. And he wanted to buy a T-shirt and wanted to know when the record was coming out. Mm-hmm. That guy's been to 2 more shows.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, so you get on bills like that. It happens with Matt Hilliard. Do you know Matt Hilliard? Mm-mm. Remember a band called 1100 Springs?
Yes. Yeah.
He was fronting that band.
Okay.
With Steve Berg. I think probably one of the most underrated bands out of Texas ever. Mm-hmm. That band was probably a decade too early. If they were breaking now in that Americana world, they'd be the biggest thing happening. But Matt has a great solo career going on, and we played with him twice, and that very, very country crowd loves us.
I think it makes sense. Think how many country acts. Have you ever known anybody who played in if any of your bandmate or band friends played in like a country band where they were a hired gun?
Yeah.
Right? And those people go on that Texas circuit, that Texas-Oklahoma circuit or whatever, and it's a grind.
Yeah.
And you can go play all these spots like here it's probably like Love and War in Plano.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The show's going to be sold out. There's another place like that up in McKinney. I can't think of the name, but it's like a restaurant bar where you're going to have 300-400 people there.
Hanks.
Yes. Yeah.
I think they closed down, but yeah, it was the same thing.
Same thing. And it's like, it's sold out.
Yeah.
They're drinking, they're dancing, they're having a good time.
Yeah.
But the reality is, it's probably going to be 2 to 3 country bands that sound very similar on that bill.
Yes.
Right? And so I would think, you go to a place like Hanks or Love and War, and you're expecting 3 of these country bands back to back to back, and then all of a sudden it's not. It's a blues trio. That's got to be refreshing. It's got to, if you're at the back bar getting your drink going, well, we'll see, if this first country band's good before the second country band comes on. I'll get back here, maybe get some nachos or something, and then you hear this loud, distorted guitar.
Yeah.
You hear a more chugging, slow blues riff or something. And like, well, hold on. These fellas up here doing something different. And I think that's what they like. I think the variety, if that's your town, if you live in McKinney and you're going to Hanks, once every 2 weekends or something.
Yeah.
You hear a lot of the same stuff. It starts to just be kind of noise,
And there's so much.
Even if you love that genre, right? It's just, we get it, So I could see why you would do well in that environment.
You would think.
And blues and country too. That really does go hand in hand.
Well, I've got a philosophy that your country kids and your rock and roll kids are the same kid. And most of the people that are into country music grew up listening to rock and roll music, and rock and roll music is just blues music. It's all it's all from the same place. Every bit of this is the same. There was a lady we were playing out at the Roanoke Chop Shop, which is in Roanoke near Denton, and was one of 1100 Springs' last shows. And we were the special guests that night. This was for the 40 Acre Mule, my old band. And great show. We killed it. My wife was in the ladies' restroom. It was after our set and before 1100 played. And the 40 Acre Mule was very roots rock with like a tenor or baritone sax and, very driving guitars with John Pettigo on guitar. And it was a rock and roll outfit, like a full-on rock and roll show. My wife's in the restroom, and this lady's in there, older lady, and she's talking to this lady that's with her, and she says, "I'm glad that's over. I didn't come here for that rock and roll." And not knowing my wife's there. And my wife's like, And I'm like, well, first of all, thank you for not punching her in the face, because my wife can run hot sometimes. But she came and told me that, and I looked at that crowd, and I said, you know what? If I got 50 to 70% of these people to buy into what I was doing, I won the night. There's always going to be that lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't going to win her over anyway. I don't care.
Right.
I don't care.
Yeah, you're right. And that's music anyway, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you had, who do you think is like one of the biggest rock bands right now? And how many fans do you think they have?
Oh, just because I was thinking about them the other day, let's just say the Black Keys.
Sure. Yeah.
10 million fans.
10 million, right?
Yeah.
And then you think like, man, there's like 350 Americans. There's like 1 billion people in China, 1 billion people in India. So it's like we're up to almost 8 billion people in the world. It's like 10 million is still nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Like
Nothing.
the overwhelming majority of the world either doesn't know who you are or doesn't like you.
Yeah.
And, but 10 million is still incredible, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
it's great.
because they're, I mean, in circles of rock music, blues music, like Dan Auerbach, Black Keys, that's a household name, right?
Absolutely.
But we can go out in the public right now, and there's still going to be people who haven't got to experience that yet.
Absolutely.
So anybody who's like thinking like, I didn't win them all over, it's like, buddy, you're never gonna, man.
Okay, yeah. And
you're never gonna.
It comes back to that philosophy of I had to learn to be okay with hearing no.
Yeah.
You got to get a thick skin in this business really fast, because the people that don't make it are the people that quit.
Yeah.
And, it starts with having good songs and having some talent and working on your craft, of course. But then the grind of it and the getting down from hearing the no's and then getting butt hurt over the little old lady in Roanoke who didn't want to hear rock and roll.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I'm okay.
Because even the Black Keys was Brothers, their like third album, I think.
Yeah.
And that was the one that caught.
Yeah.
Before that, they're just, another two-piece. The Black Keys, is that something like the White Stripes?
Yeah.
What is that,
Yeah.
And, I still remember people talking about that new band and that new album,
Yeah.
when they won an award for it or whatever.
Right.
And it's like, man, that new band that's been doing it for like a decade.
Yeah.
And, but it's the same way. I told you I have a bunch of comics on here.
Yeah.
They deal with a similar struggle where I think bands are harder on themselves because, like, to be a comic, you really just need yourself, your thoughts.
Yeah.
You can walk up and they give you a microphone and you're good to go. But a band, it's like, man, you've invested money in guitars, amps. You got to haul these things. So you need a car. It's very expensive to feel like you're not having success at all, right?
Yeah.
But these comics are the same way. They'll be doing it, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
They're funny. They're objectively good at what they're doing, like a lot of bands are, right?
Yeah.
You go to a lot of these shows and you're like, that band is good.
Yeah.
Like, even if I don't like them, that's tight. That's a tight band. And, they hit that 7, 8 year mark, 10-year mark, hasn't happened. And they're like, I guess people just don't like us. And it's like, no. That was like the prerequisite.
Yeah.
It's like, it's hard for you to hear that, but you have to be doing it this long to just be considered, now you're the beginner again.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, Dallas especially, I think we have that problem.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know what it is that holds us back as a music town, because we've got great venues, great bands, but we're missing these steps between being nationally known.
It's frustrating, man.
Right. So we have like our most recent shining examples would probably be Charlie Crockett for sure. He just did Joe Rogan, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that.
Huge for him,
Yeah.
man. And he's, you know, a lot of these people, this is going to be the first time they've heard Charlie.
That was not on my bingo card.
No.
Charlie Crockett doing Joe Rogan.
Dude, we saw him down at the Freeman,
Yeah.
small stage, inside, you know, a decade ago or whenever. It was before that In the Night album came out.
Yeah.
And he was pushing the, can't remember what that first little paper sleeved CD he was pushing was.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the little orange one.
Yeah, but you know, it's whenever he had like a lot of trumpet on it.
Yeah,
He had
Charlie Mills was playing trumpet for him.
that was like a buddy of his from a long time ago.
Yeah,
right?
from New Orleans.
Yeah, and so, you know, we're watching him. You know these guys. I would normally not name drop these guys, but you know them. Alexis Sanchez on guitar, who I think is still with him on guitar, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. James Brock playing drums.
Yeah.
This was all at 8 Airs, and it was like, he's just jamming. You know, there's 30 people. You know, I mean, not 8 Airs, Freeman. You know how Freeman is. You just kind of come in and out, and they always have somebody good on stage.
Yeah.
And that night it happened to be Charlie.
Yeah.
And he's just saying all the cool Charlie stuff, like, you don't have to give me any money. Just make sure you take the music. And he had like his CDs up there or whatever, and all that stuff. And we got a fun little picture from that time. And even to this day, it's like we were driving out to Terrell yesterday, and we crossed over one of the like the forks of the Trinity River, and she's singing that little part, the Trinity River, such a dirty little river. And I was like, how is that still stuck in our head from back then? But
it's catchy, man.
so he got out, right?
Yeah.
And then I think the other one would be like maybe Leon Bridges.
Yeah.
But kind of two different stories. You know, I feel like Leon, deserving, but definitely had more of those, like, everything just had the right timing and the right people catching it all at the same time. And it seemed like he had a very quick rise.
He caught that wave of that new retro at just the right
You know,
time.
and just everybody in Dallas was feeling it.
Yeah.
Everybody in Fort Worth was feeling it. And then I think a couple of the right eyes got on it, too.
Yeah.
And then he was probably at his prime when he was in that moment, too, of just writing and playing. And it just worked.
Yeah.
Which is very rare,
Yeah.
right? And then Charlie, it's like, what did he do? He played for like a, you know, he's that guy who's been playing for a decade now.
Yeah.
And all these people on Joe Rogan are going to be like, oh, this new guy.
Yeah.
But we all know, it's like even before Dallas, he was doing all that stuff in New York and California or whatever, you know?
Yeah, he's been all over and doing this, and he did it right.
He's easily 15 to 20 years in the making now, right?
Yeah, easily.
Right?
Yeah.
From riding like subway cars in New York to coming to Dallas to now doing everything he does
All these
now.
iterations of his career have been working towards this.
Yeah.
And, you know, same goes for, you look at Joshua Ray Walker.
Yeah, great example too. How long was he around here doing Ottoman Turks?
Yeah, doing
Still
Ottoman
doing it, but like he was playing the guitar in a band, slowly grinding on his solo stuff until
just
it was ready to go.
Playing open mics, playing 8 Airs to nobody on a Tuesday. You could go there. You could walk into 8 Airs and see Josh Walker, Charlie Crockett, all these cats playing to Cody Jinks, who's selling out Red Rocks in Dallas. People don't know that he'd just play at 8 Airs, and that's how he was cutting his teeth, doing it for years and years. I was hanging out with Vandaliers the other day. Another band that's done it now for a while and starting to get that traction.
Yeah.
And you're right. 10 years seems to be about the mark where people start to go, okay, well, now you've shown that you'll stick around. These next 5, maybe you can.
And I would argue maybe, just maybe, it takes 10 to be able to handle, like if it came at you at 3 or 4 years, I don't think you're going to handle it.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're at 10, it's like, you know what it's like when a string breaks, when the amp comes unplugged, when the drum head busts. You know, not going to be a thing, and you can handle it in a very chill way, and the show goes on.
Yeah,
you know,
no freak out.
And or you know, the booker booked it wrong.
Yeah.
The door's locked. We don't know who to. You know, they're not paying us. There's no crowd here. It's like people figure this stuff out. You know, and but the bummer is, I think any band doing it for 10 years without any reasonable success is they're ready to quit.
Yeah.
They're on the like if they're not done now, they're about to.
Yeah.
And trying to talk any of them into like, please just a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, you're just. I know it feels like this is all worthless, but that's why I think there's a few things we need to put in place in Dallas to give you that little glimmer of hope on another step. You know, like from your 5 to 7 year, from your 7 to 8. You're 8 to 10, you're 10 to 12. That way you don't hit that burnout. But I don't really know what that is anymore.
I don't either. I mean, Dallas, there are things that are kind of happening that are trying, like the Deep Ellum Block Party is a okay step in the direction that.
But Deep Ellum has always been hard too, right?
It's tough.
Deep Ellum goes through its natural waves of more dangerous, less dangerous,
Yes.
more busy, less busy.
Right.
Do we want big corporate money, or do we want it only Deep Ellum? What's the Deep Ellum organization? I can't remember what they call it. And they all have conflicting ideas of what is Deep Ellum,
right?
And but it's always hard to there's a couple places, I guess, like 3 Links, Double Wide, they've stuck around. Trees is hung on.
Yeah. Dada still book shows.
Honestly, no hate to Dada. No hate. I want y'all to succeed, and y'all do a lot of good shows, but I'm shocked that they've made it this long.
I am too.
I'm shocked.
It is by sheer will. I did a solo thing. I don't do it often with just me and a guitar, but it was with Ben Nichols, who's from Lucero, who's an old friend of mine. And he does this bike ride with Oliver Peck, and he goes around just riding his bike, the Bike Riders Tour. And he stops at a city and plays a solo show. He's like, hey, will you come do this with me? I was like, where's it going to be? He said, Club Dada. And I had to think for a second. Wait, Dada's open? Because it'll go through these stretches where, okay, Dada's out of business.
You drive by and you go, ooh, finally, huh? And you genuinely can't tell if it's open or not. Yeah. But then you'll see pictures from a show that someone just had, and you're like, that looks like a really great show.
Yeah. And I walked in there.
It's a full room, and it looks awesome.
It was packed out. The stage was in a whole different place from the last time I think this is how long it had been since I'd been to Dada. Mm-hmm. War on Drugs played at Club Dada. And that's how long it had been since I had stepped foot in there.
Yeah.
And it is... I don't look. There are people really earnestly trying to make Dallas a music city, but it starts with the way that people consume music in Dallas. People love cover bands here.
I don't get it. I will go on record saying I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And if you're in a cover band, I'm not hating on you, but I don't know why a cover band. Maybe I'm burning some bridges here on the podcast, so I apologize. I love all these places I'm about to mention. I don't know why a cover band needs to play at the Granada Theater. I don't know why a cover band needs to play at like music venues. Yeah. A cover band needs to be at the bar where we want to hear a variety of different music, right? Yeah. The like I play covers of only this one band, like we're the Van Halen tribute band or something. That too, it's like I get people love that. Yeah. And I get that if you're a venue that sells tickets and it helps keep the doors open so I can go watch the bands I want to watch. And so I deal with it. And I'm not hating on you. Yeah. But I don't get I've never once thought like, I would love to go see this band play all of the AC/DC songs that I love. Yeah. I don't get it. But it does sell, and people love it.
They love it. And now imagine if the people that sold out going to go see the cover bands went to go see what could possibly be their new favorite band playing original music. Yeah. But Dallas doesn't support like that.
What do you think it is? I mean, because I feel like we're blinded just because we like music, we've played in bands, so we automatically have more of an urge to go seek it out. But what do you think it is for someone who's not a musician, not in bands, doesn't think like you got to support your scene? Like, how do you get them to find music? That's a tricky...
I don't know if those people are necessarily, and understand what I'm trying to say when I say this. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're necessarily music fans. Mm-hmm. They're fans of that band. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. They're fans of the nostalgia. They're fans of how that band made them feel. There's a Smiths Morrissey cover band called Panic. Mm-hmm. And speaking of The Edge, Josh Venable, who ran the Adventure Club on The Edge. Yes. It's his band. Josh and I have been friends forever. We were playing up in Tulsa, and he came out to see us. He runs a station up there now. He is the Morrissey in that.
Gotcha.
And he's such a Morrissey nerd that scratches that itch for him. Mm-hmm. I have friends that play in that band, and they just have fun playing it.
I get why a band member would want to do it.
Right. It's fun.
I get that.
The people that go see it, they are looking at the show, and it's like they're experiencing seeing Johnny Marr and seeing Morrissey. And in the back of my head, I'm looking around the room like, that's not Johnny Marr. That's not Morrissey. But there's something that happens. You can see this glazed over look in
They're
their
all just
eyes.
buying in for the act.
They're buying into the act, and they can shut off their troubles, and they don't have to really pay attention. There's songs they already know. And there is a comfortable laziness to it.
Yeah.
that doesn't go into really listening to a band that you're discovering, a band that's creating new music in the now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess I get that side of it. Dallas is just really good at consuming cover bands and really bad at supporting live music. And that's painful for me to say because I defend Dallas everywhere I go. It's something that other musicians in other towns will say to us on the road.
Oh, okay.
They're like, hey, what's the deal with Dallas? Why don't they show up to shows? Mm-hmm. And so the best way I can put it is I made it into D Magazine's music issue a couple of years ago with 40 Acre. Big spread. It was really cool. Cool moment. Mm-hmm. But somebody asked me in part of the interview process of it, I said, man, you guys kind of came out of nowhere. I was like, no, we didn't. I've been doing this for 10 years. Just nobody in Dallas cared until this band kind of broke on the West Coast. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 40 Acre blew up out west, and we became a big deal in LA and Orange County. And now we're going to pay attention to you. It's like you have to make it elsewhere.
They're looking for your credits first. Yeah. Which is strange.
And I think that's what you've seen happen to Charlie. Mm-hmm. When Josh made, I believe it was Kimmel or the Tonight Shows. Yeah,
one of those. Yeah, it was huge. Yeah.
You do that, and all of a sudden, this guy, you could go see any of these guys any night of the week in Dallas if you would have made the effort.
Right.
To go explore new music in the city. But now that they're on TV, I want to claim them.
Yeah.
And that is so Dallas.
Well, talking about like the out of town people wanting to know what's going on with us.
Yeah.
What do you think it was that, Eddie 9Volt's show, packed room, Tuesday night? That's a hard ticket sell. Yeah. What do you think he's tapping into where Dallas shows up for that out of towner?
Dallas still has an element that loves good, legitimate blues rock and roll.
Yeah.
And that fan base will still seek out music. And I've benefited from that. They talk to each other, they share music with each other, and they will show up on a Tuesday night. They will. So fans
it's the community.
That community, yeah. Hip hop's the same way in this town.
Yeah, but hip hop around here is strange. I've still been trying to tap into that more because it's like if you know, yeah. Right? And it's like, well, I don't know anybody who knows. So
yeah. And metal's the same way here too,
dude. Yeah, it's all metal. I mean, gosh, since the Pantera days around here, it has always had something happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But I argue that, we are one of the music towns. I just don't think we know it.
We're definitely one of the towns that produces incredible artists. North Texas turns out amazing musicians, amazing bands. But we love nostalgia. We love the good old days syndrome.
Yeah.
Tonight, Tripping Daisy's playing, I think at the Bomb Factory, which is called the Bomb Factory again.
Right, yeah.
That place is going to be packed out. Mm-hmm. And I wish that a quarter of that crowd that's going to pack it out for Tripping Daisy would still go to Double Wide on a Saturday night and see who's playing there. Go to Three Links and go catch a new band. Mm-hmm. It's still great to have those memories and everything that's connected with them. I have bands that I will listen to always, but there's still great new music happening in Dallas.
Yeah, and I got so burnt out on hearing the excuses. Like you talk to bands about it, and you hear all the cliche, like, they feel like Deep Ellum's too unsafe. They just don't go down there. And it's like, well, every time, like, I'll go down to Deep Ellum just to get something from Ani Ramen.
Yeah.
You know where that is?
Yeah, I do.
And it's like, yeah, Deep Ellum's always packed. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's full when I go down there.
Yeah,
what do you mean nobody's going down there?
Ton of people there.
And, it's like the amount of times I've walked by in flip-flops to get ramen with that club next to it that's just packed out with like 5 dudes in tactical gear running security.
Yes.
And it's like, that's only one spot.
Yeah.
The other spots are doing something similar. And, so it's like, I don't buy that. And then they're like, well, kids aren't going to bars and drinking. And it's like, no, I don't buy that either. Or like, well, it's because everything's streaming. Nobody loves music. And it's like, I don't know, man. There's younger musicians making it.
Yeah, why are vinyl sales up?
Exactly. Why is a guy like Billy Strings so massively popular?
Yep.
If people aren't going to shows, people only want to stream music and they don't like drinking. And it's like, Have you seen his shows?
Amazing.
All that's gone,
Yeah.
and he's playing a form of music that the next excuse I would hear is like, people just don't like this music anymore. And it's like, I don't know, man. He's playing bluegrass.
Yeah, give me his ticket sales.
If he can make
likes
bluegrass cool,
Yeah.
Sturgill Simpson did it too. He put out his bluegrass albums.
Yep.
It's like, if you can make bluegrass cool, and that's being like liberal, saying like they made it cool. It's like, I think people just like music. They're just
Yeah.
waiting for the good version of it.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is keep working on it. But there still is that disconnect of like, okay, once you did get good, once you're good enough that they will like it because you, and I don't mean good subjectively good, just whatever style you're playing, you objectively have a tight band now.
Yeah.
Just that disconnect of like, all right, how do we get them here? And the cynic in me wants to just be like, well, you're artists, you're musicians, you're inherently people that aren't working very hard on the business side of things. You're lazy, right? But you know, you can't say that to people. You can't say that to people.
It's hard, man.
Listen, you're one of my rare guests who was here 10 minutes early. Okay? Maybe people should think about what that means.
Yeah, there's a professionalism to this.
You know what I'm saying?
Know? It is.
I book all these interviews assuming most people are 15 minutes late. I don't want them to be.
Yeah.
But I plan on that,
Yeah.
you know, because there are people who are. And they're like, oh, sorry, I had that. And it's like, no. I know. But the ones who show up early, the first thought in my mind is like, oh, this is why they get those shows. Yeah. This is why they get those opportunities.
It's a big part of how I run Boss Tweed. When I remember the first tour we were doing, I sent out an itinerary to the guys, and it had a breakdown of, this is van call, this is the hotel we'll be staying in, check-in is here, check-out is here, load in to the venue is this. And they were like, we've never had that happen before. I said, well.
And I'm sure they're thinking, hey, you know, it's just the three of us, right? It's just you, me, and him. But it helps, right?
It helps. And it's a level of professionalism that I wanted. It gets you invited back to the venue. Mm-hmm. And like you said, people are usually late. The venue will remember that you're the opening band that showed up not just on time, but early. Mm-hmm. You were prepared for sound check. You got through your sound check quickly and efficiently. You were on stage when you were supposed to. You got off stage. I like to give time back to the headliner. Mm-hmm. We play a tight, in-your-face, hit them with 8 to 10 songs, thank you, good night, leave them wanting more.
Yeah.
Time to get off stage, and the headliner remembers they didn't go over their time.
Yeah.
The venue remembers they didn't go over their time. They were really nice. They didn't cause any problems.
And the unsung hero of all your great venues, your sound team.
Yep.
You know, when they see you, like, you're set up, you're not sitting there like tuning the drum, ding, ping, pong, pong, and they're just behind the board. Fuck, here we go. Guys, sound check, please.
Yeah.
You know, no, hold on. I got this new pedal. Let me put a battery in it. Hold on.
Yep.
You know, all that stuff. It's like, who do you think the sound guy talks to immediately after that sound check?
Absolutely.
The manager, the book,
GM,
all these
booking
people.
agent.
You know, it's like, don't you want them being like, you know, when they ask how they looking, just like, tight, good band, ready to go. Like, no news is good news.
Yeah.
You know, and the last thing you want is to be like, yeah, it took us like 20 minutes to even get started. You're never coming back.
There was a venue we played. We were on tour with Alejandro Escobedo last year, and we were playing in Atlanta. Great venue called the Earl, East Atlanta, and then whatever the R and L stand for.
Little side note. I've noticed you're playing a string of venues, very solid names with venues. That is, I've never heard of the Earl, but if I walked by the Earl and saw me, I'd be like, I bet that's a good venue.
It's a great venue. The Earl in Atlanta, yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Go on.
But we got in there, played a killer rock and roll show ahead of another great show with Alejandro Escobedo. Got our stuff off stage, and was emailing with the talent buyer, and he finished his email with me. It was like, by the way, the entire staff said you guys were just great, and we want to see you back here. That's what the staff is talking about you, and how great your show was, how great you were to work with. That is my payoff.
Yeah.
I'm like, because then when I'm trying to book out another run through that area, which ideally is going to be within the next 6 months, you get to hit it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to hit that venue up. like, hey, we're trying to come through. We'd like to get in there again. And they're going to remember you. They're going to remember the good. They're going to remember the bad. You want them to only have good to remember. So that's why it's important for your band to run as professionally. This is fun. What we do is really fun. It's my favorite thing to do is to play a rock and roll show with my dudes.
Yeah.
And have fun with that audience and sing my songs. I love it, but it's work. Every part of it is work. From promoting yourself to booking your tour. I designed my own T-shirts. I negotiated my deal with the T-shirt company. We were listening to test pressings because I'm my own record label. I'm doing it all myself, and it is work. If you can't do that and you're not willing to do that, you're not going to make it to 10 years.
I think that's what most of the I shouldn't say failures. But it is the most of the reason bands around here don't have the success that they would like to. I think all of that is just either they don't think about it or they don't think it matters. Yeah. Maybe it's not even conscious, It's just you're working so hard on music, then you think like the music will shine through. And it's like, man, unfortunately,
there's a lot of good music out there, man.
Unfortunately, it's not gonna. Yeah. And you want to live in a world where it does, but it's always been that way since the beginning of music. Yep. Like the good song doesn't matter. You still got to do all that work to get it out there for people.
Absolutely.
If you could show your song to all 8 billion people, you're going to get 10 million like the Black Keys did, maybe more. Yeah. And you're going to be, so how do you just get it in front of them? Just keep going. And then, like kind of to your point about staff too, it's like the other part is thinking, in a way, right? No one wants to, you got into a band because you don't want to be an employee. Right? You don't want to be. But in a way you kind of are. It's like, hey man, think about that bartender that's working back there tonight. Yep. Okay, that person's got bills to pay. Yep. They're working at this venue. You're on the stage tonight. You're controlling their rent money. People having a good time. Those beers are selling. Their tips go up. They're going to remember, hell yeah, every time J. Isaiah, Boss Tweed play here, every time I make like a kill. I'm making this many hundreds of dollars in my tips when they're here. Yeah, that crowd wants to party. That crowd wants to hang out. And it's like, without even trying, they're always like, oh, they're coming back again? Awesome. That was a good show last time, wasn't it? Yeah, it's like all those little bitty bits of the professionalism. It's like, just think about the bartender, the bar back, the door person. Like if they're tipping out people based on how much money all this stuff's making, in a way you're that employee. And it doesn't sound cool, but what is cool is when you roll into town, into a venue, and they're all psyched you're back again.
It's part of the responsibility. It's the contract you make with each other.
The show might not even be sold out. Yeah. But they're pumped. It's like, oh, these guys? Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Yeah. How did they only sell 200? We need to get them up to 250. What did we not do? Yeah. Like all of a sudden they want to work for you.
Yeah. They want to tell their friends. And that's a big part of what I count on is, okay, well, we're playing a market for the first time. Maybe we drew 100 to the room. Okay. And that's great. But next time I need you 100 to go each bring a friend next time. And now that turns into 200. Yeah. Now we move from this tiny club space to a theater space. And that means the money goes up. And that's the opportunity to build a fan base that will stick with you.
So outside of just like the professionalism, right? Because you're having the success that we're talking about, right? You're playing shows in DFW, outside of DFW. Let's just assume people like the music, right? Let's just say that's a given, right? Yeah. What do you think it was for you? Was it consistency of volume of gigs, type of gig, or what do you think it was in combination with, they like the music and we're professional, but we, this is how we approached, we're going to play these shows, these places. What was that formula for you? I was very picky about the shows that I tried to jump on early. Was this with 40 Acre?
Well, with 40 Acre,
because you were able to build a lot of this off of that as well. Yeah. Now you have a reputation from that.
Yeah, band. And bringing it back to cover bands, I was in a cover band that broke up, and the band got split around Texas, and I was like, okay, we're not going to do that anymore. But two of the guys that were in that band with me, I'd been writing songs that whole time, but it was a cover band. I was never going to get a chance to do those. I was like, okay, I got this thing I want to do. And these guys jumped on with me to do that. And it stuck, and it wasn't, I didn't know if it would stick, but it turned out that people liked it. And again, it starts with good songs, good players. getting to open for people that have fans gets eyeballs on you faster. There's absolutely nothing wrong with going and doing the open mic. That's wonderful too. That's just not, I'm not guy with acoustic guitar and coffee shop. I'm never going to be that guy. Never wanted to be that guy. The fastest way was to have good songs, a good show, and again, being okay with hearing the no. Trying to jump on. I think our very first show was.
I was going to ask you, who were some of these bands that you were reaching out to? Could you say you want to play with these bands that have a little bit of
Dead Flowers?
Oh, yeah.
Dead Flowers.
What's that guy's name? Corey
Howe.
Corey Howe, yeah.
Yeah, he owns Charlie Star Lounge.
Oh, well, I was going to say, talking about like the networking of it all, right?
Yeah.
It's like it may seem like your professionalism, it's like whatever, it's just a show, but like Corey Howe's a good example of. Not only is he in that band, but he knows these other musicians. And wasn't he also working at like Double Wide for a long time?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like, so it's not just this dude in this band. It's a guy who knows a booker to another venue you might be able to play. It's like, get your shit together.
That is the game.
Yeah.
That's how you make those connections. So,
Dead Flowers. What were some of the other bands you were kind of reaching out to?
Dead Flowers, Vandaliers were just really getting started, but they had kind of had some success. Charlie Crockett was starting to get some traction and play theater shows. And Charlie and I knew each other personally. I called him up and I was like, hey man, you got support on these Texas dates? And he's like, you know what? Yeah, come on, let's go. And it's those relationships. I knew Charlie from him busking, just playing around town. The Ottoman Turks guys, we all played together. 40 Acre and Ottoman Turks were both on State Fair Records at the same time.
Right.
Vandaliers was on State Fair at one point, and Josh Walker was on State Fair at one point. And so we all had these connections, We all knew Trey Johnson because he ran State Fair Records before he passed, and he was in Sorta, and that was a massive band here. So building those connections and keeping and not burning those bridges, trying to not burn those bridges pays off a lot. So as I would call people and be like, all right, hey, can we get on the road with you for this? They may say no here, but I've got some dates coming up in a few months I need support on. Could you guys do 7 days on the West Coast? We did that with Old 97s a couple of times. We ended up opening for Dinosaur Jr. On a festival date. It was us, Ottoman Turks were on that festival, Vandaliers, like 3 Texas bands and all these other bands from California and Nevada in the middle of the Nevada desert with Dinosaur Jr.
I mean, come on, that sounds like a fun time though, right?
It's where it can lead.
Yeah.
It's where it can lead. So yeah, you make those connections and you make the phone call and you reach out, and sometimes you get a yes, sometimes you get a no. Like I've known JD McPherson for a long time. I've wanted to tour with JD for a bit, and the one we got to do, here earlier this year, there was an opening in the schedule, and he needed support, and we have become a band that can draw in Texas. Boss Tweed draws in Texas, and that's the first step to my world domination.
So in the earlier days where you're saying like, okay, Charlie's playing theaters, we know each other, I'll reach out to him, right?
Yeah.
A lot of these bands, you're dealing with like a lot of great musicians, very insecure people.
Yeah.
Right? It's part of the reason you're writing music, right?
Yeah.
You're probably a little more sensitive if you're writing some of these great songs, and you probably have a lot of self-doubt, right?
Of course.
So like a lot of those people would be like, oh, I don't want to seem like I'm just mooching off him, or like, I don't want to put him in a position where he doesn't say no, because he's just trying to be nice and he tells me yes, and it's like he really doesn't want to. And I mean, how are you kind of resolving that when you're about to reach out? Are you thinking any of those thoughts like, man, I'm in some way kind of pressuring him into a yes that maybe he doesn't want to give, or does that even cross your mind?
No, not at all. I don't take it personally if they say no. First of all,
you give them like a qualifier, like feel free to say no.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And I mean that.
Yeah.
It's absolutely okay to say no. It's okay to say no. But I'm also the kind of person that will remember things. And you tell me no enough times, I'm going to stop asking. Now, if it comes back around and you've said no, 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 and you come ask me to open for you, price went up.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I'm petty.
You don't take it as the first 3 no's. They just couldn't work it in, and then the 4th yes is like, "Hey man, we wanted you on. We finally found you."
No,
like,
that in that
we finally
situation,
found a spot for you, man. We're so pumped.
In that situation, and I totally get that because a lot of tours are booked out well ahead of time, and your support's lined up, and that's totally fine. But there was an instance. Again, I'm not going to name the band because it's a huge band.
First of all, don't worry. I'm petty too. Okay, I'm not judging. I have to like we were talking about. I'm trying to live more like Dolly Parton these days, and I'm trying to be more positive and understanding of people. But my default setting is fuck that person.
Yeah, with a smile on my face.
So I'm not judging. I get you. Okay, I get you.
This band, we were holding these dates, and then they decided to go with somebody else as the support, and we found out last minute. I'm like, I blocked out these dates.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, all right, well, fine. And this wasn't the first time something like this had happened with this band. So we take another tour that worked out to be really good for us. Mm-hmm. Just as I was just starting to get Boss Tweed really going, and I'm glad I took the other tour. But just as that tour is about to happen, I get a panicked phone call from that first band. Hey, so the support we had lined up just quit music. They're not going to play music anymore. They're not doing it. Can you guys jump on? And back in my head, I was like this little smile of, I'd really, really like to, but I've already committed to this other tour, and I'm not going to do that to this artist. And, I'm still friends with all involved, but yeah, the little petty in me was smiling a little bit that I got to say, nah.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I get you. Yeah. Because, like, in my mind in that scenario, it's like, hey, these people are going to learn a good lesson about, like, bird in the hand. Let's make let's do, you thought you were waiting for a better thing and a better thing didn't come, that kind of. But it's like now, as I get more mature, the reality is like they're not thinking about it that way.
Yeah.
They were. I don't know these people, so I'm just making generalizations. But it's like it's like no, they were probably unorganized and had all this stuff. It's like that was their own fault, and they're not taking any lesson from this. That's how they are. But you do for a few moments. You're like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, you need me.
Yeah.
Let me put my feet up here a little bit. Tell me your offer.
Yeah. I'm still going to say no, but I want to hear what you.
Yeah.
No, it is. It's one of these things in this business where you have to remember the people that helped you get a foot up and the people that held you back. I'm always beholden to the people who gave me an opportunity, and I will never, ever forget that. I say it a lot. I am so grateful for the team at the Kessler and Kessler Presents. Mm-hmm. It is so cool that we have an outfit like that in Dallas, and we have a lot of great talent buyers in North Texas. But for me personally, if the Kessler and Alejandro Escobedo had not gotten together and said, "Hey, will you come open this Alejandro show?" I wouldn't have done this Boss Tweed project because I wouldn't have had an opportunity to rush it together and stick like it did. They have championed me, and that's how I got on my Dave Alvin tour. That's how I got on the Third Mind tour. We were just with Drive By Truckers in Deer Tick, and our really good friends Thelma and the Sleaze, great band out of Nashville. I played Longhorn Ballroom because Kessler has advocated, and I will never, ever forget that. Those are the kind of people that you want to remember, and when they call on you, like, hey, can you do this? You want to be able to do it because it makes it packed.
They're doing something right at Kessler because they do comedy shows now too.
Yeah.
And
you just said like my new favorite comedy club.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, okay,
yeah. And like full transparency, it's like, I love the Kessler.
Yeah.
We've seen concerts there. One of my favorite Margot Price shows that I ever watched was at Kessler before she was big. We had seen her down in Austin when her first album came out. So this would have been her second album coming out. So she was already very famous.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we saw her before.
Yeah.
But But again, that was one of those like we can't ever watch her again at the Kessler. Probably she's too big now. You know,
Yeah.
she's got to sell, or unless she's willing to do like 4 nights. You know,
right.
And so we love the Kessler. But when I was going to this comedy show, the first thing that I thought was funny is comedy's a weird thing to sell tickets to in general.
Yeah.
I don't think people know how to price it or kind of what to expect.
Yeah.
And so, Kessler always has, these tickets are kind of priced here, these tickets are priced here. And that's how a lot of venues work, right?
Yeah.
So there was like, you could get a table up front for like $200. And it's like, I don't think people really do that for comedy unless it's a famous person. These were like local comics.
Okay.
So it's like, know. And so I was like, I wonder how this is going to go. I was like, they probably don't know how to really do this. But I want to watch these performers tonight, for this podcast. I'm watching new people.
Yeah.
And the other thing with comedy is like people want like not small rooms, but you want the room to feel small.
Yeah.
They want all these comics want these low ceilings. They like kind of medium stages to small stages.
Yeah. Okay.
The opposite of what the Kessler is. Kessler's tall stages, 2 stories worth of seating.
Yeah.
Massive stage, right? And so it's like, well, we'll see. But they just know the assignment. Like they didn't have all their stage lights on. They didn't have the normal big production that they would do for a band. It was like they had it all tastefully done to where it's basically just a little bit of spotlight in the center where these comics are. And these people that are watching this show in this room that shouldn't work too well for it, were all locked in.
That's wonderful.
And it ends up being, and you start to realize like, it's probably the workers, it's probably the owners, it's probably all of it. But there's also just some magic with that space where it's like once you have so many good performances that those walls are breathing in all the time.
Yeah.
And you've got, the staff that understands how to work this room.
Yeah.
Like people who feel like, no, the room wants the sound this way.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like because of the walls. It's like whatever weird personalities in this room, this is how it likes it to be done. and then it rewards you. And there's just something special about that venue. And like I said, I know it's definitely the workers, because the other part is like anytime we've walked in there, staff has just always been great. Yeah. They look like people who understand that like, yeah, we work at a cool venue. We love this.
Yeah.
We love this. Yeah. We're psyched to be here too.
But working musicians work there. People that have been in this business a long time, Jeffrey Lyles has forgotten more stories about Dallas's music history than I'll ever know. It's an incredible outfit over there. I'm so glad that they have Longhorn because it's in good hands. They have another space called the Heights down in Houston.
Okay.
Played there a number of times, and they do the O4 Center in Austin, and all of the rooms run well.
That's good.
It's where we played our first Boss Tweed show. We're doing our album release party there on July 19th. Shameless plug.
Nice. No, not shameless. Go. Everybody go.
Yeah, it's us with Low Cut Connie. If you've never seen Low Cut Connie, shame on you, because it is a full-on rock and roll riot show. And it's a thing we're doing with KXT to put out our record. And I was thinking about where to do the album release party. The Kessler had a short list of places, but the Kessler was what I always wanted because it's where this thing started. And I knew that they would take good care of the evening. And I wouldn't have to, I'm already going to be worried about enough. I have to sell all 220 copies of this record, or my wife's going to make me sleep in the car. So please come to the Kessler on July 19th and buy all 220 copies.
That's how many vinyls you printed up? 220?
Yeah, I paid for 200, but he's giving me an extra 20, which is really nice. So,
who'd you go through?
I used Montclair Pressing out of Nacogdoches.
Okay.
Small mom and pop operation. There was another outfit here in town I wanted to use, but like I said, on my own record label, so I had to go with the price point too.
I understand what you're talking about.
Maybe on the next project, I'll use the one closer to home.
I pressed a vinyl for a band, and I went with this company called Got a Groove. And they're in, I can't even remember where they're at. I think maybe Cleveland or something.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like selecting your venue, isn't it?
It is.
It's like you can't explain it. You're just like, I don't know, man. Just the way their website was laid out.
Yeah.
I just like them.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I know they can all make the vinyl, but like I need to feel right about
this
it.
This other guy had a splash page. And I don't feel good about that.
What made me feel good about them is you called, someone answered, And they were like extremely customer service oriented.
Yeah.
So like I was making mistakes on my art and stuff, and they're calling me. They're like, "Hey, man, you got to fix this." They're like,
Yeah.
"We'll print it, but it's going to look crappy. Like, fix this." And it's like they kept you from making those mistakes. And I was like, "Man, I feel good about giving you my money."
That's one thing Montclair did. Like, I could not quite get the art right. And finally, they're like, just send us the files. We'll fix it. It's like, that's really what I wanted you. It's like when I keep doing something wrong at home, my wife's phone, like, fine, I'll just do it.
In the meantime, you're just looking on YouTube. You're like, "I don't know how to zip this. What do they want?"
What do you mean compress? Turn to what? I've never heard of this format.
You pull out your guitar compression pedal, and you're like, "How would this do anything to the file?"
Yeah, exactly. This isn't going to help. It is.
So we got 220 copies. We need to sell.
Yeah, I got
That's doable, man.
It's doable, and they'll be in some retailers. I'm gonna have it at Good Records and Spencer, I hope, and Josie, and we'll put some in some record stores. We made the record in Memphis. Memphis is kind of our second home for this band, and so we'll have them in some stores there. And but the lion's share, I want to come to the Kessler with us.
You just need to make sure. Are you closing that show, or is what's the lineup? We're
going to play first.
Okay.
It's a co-headlining thing. I want to enjoy the party.
Yeah.
And I'm not. I've aged into the point in my life where playing early is cooler.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, it was like, man, we're the headliner. We're going on at midnight.
Yeah. We're going on at midnight. We're playing for 2 hours.
Yeah. If I'm not in bed asleep at midnight, I may be at home watching Murder, She Wrote or Gunsmoke. I'm an 80-year-old man.
Yeah.
I want to be done with my rocking and rolling by 10. That 10's good.
Yeah.
10:30, great.
Listen, man, the good news is a lot of the people that go to shows now feel that way.
Yes.
All right?
Yeah.
And I know you will. I know you're going to have your merch table set up.
Yeah.
But you can definitely sling 200 albums at this.
I hope so.
You can do that.
I'm really proud of this record. We made it. The guys and I made that record in 48 hours.
Wow.
We went into the studio in Memphis Magnetic, and we lived in the studio. We slept in there, showered for 2 days. We were in there, and we made the record, and then we just started touring.
Nice.
And so now we finally have a chance to put it out, and then we're going back to Memphis to make the next one in October. And I love what we do up there. I love my producer, Scott McEwen, and there's something in the Memphis dirt. And especially being an organ trio, with Stax there and that history of roots music in Memphis, Tennessee. And we get something out of that place that is just, there are wonderful studios here in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
John Pettigo just started a new studio of his own that, is going to be great too. Modern Electric's here, but I just wanted to get out of town and go work with somebody I hadn't worked with before.
Mm-hmm.
J.D. McPherson suggested using Scott, and I have not looked back, and I'm so proud of what we turned out, and I hope everybody buys all 220 copies on vinyl, pressed by Montclair Pressing, and they will be available July 19th at the Kessler Theater.
What was it about that studio? There's all these kind of nebulous terms about studios and producers and engineers, right? But it really is, you can find a great studio with all the equipment you need anywhere.
Yeah.
And you can find great producers, great engineers anywhere, right? And it's you can have Rick Rubin's not going to work for everyone.
Right.
You might set up your session with Rick Rubin thinking all right, well, it's definitely going to be a hit, and y'all just might not vibe.
No.
So what was it that clicked for y'all when you were there?
Well, I knew about the studio for a while because Bob Suffolk, who's a studio designer who lives here in Dallas, Bob's internationally known for building studios. He's built them London, New York, LA, you name, big studios. Bob had been trying to get us to go there because he designed the studio, and he designed it for a guy named Scott McEwen who had Fry Pharmacy studios in Nashville for a while, and they did a lot of great Americana and indie stuff. And then he moved to Memphis and opened this studio. When I was kind of trying to figure out where I wanted to work out of on my next project, I just talked with JD about wanting to do something new. And he's like, you got to go work with Scott McEwen in Memphis. I'm like, okay. All right. Well, he did Undivided Heart and Soul there. He did Socks, his Christmas record, which is amazing. Probably the best original Christmas record of the last 20 years. Like, man, the sound that they got in there was warm. It was vintage, but not fake vintage. You know? It's like, I'm going to give this a shot. And Scott and I got on the phone, and we started talking to each other, and he understood what I was saying. Like, it's almost like he could look inside my head and understood the sound I was talking about. And once we got up there...
That conversation...
Yeah.
How are y'all approaching that? Is he saying, tell me what you want to do? Or are you saying, tell me what you need to know? Like, how's that happening?
He's tell me what you want to do. And I said, well, what it is, it's an organ trio. He's like, oh, I get that. And he was in Memphis, so he listened to a lot of Booker T and the MGs, and he knew what organ could be as a rock and roll instrument, not just a soul instrument, not just a jazz instrument. And I also wanted to record analog. I'm not some purist who thinks, oh, well, it's got to be live to tape or it doesn't. You know, I'm okay with dumping stuff to a computer and then putting it on tape to get that tape feel. I'm cool with studio tricks. I'm not cool with auto-tune. But then I started looking at pictures of the space and the gear that was in there and the way that the studio is laid out. It's a giant room. So the reverb is the echo of the room. And that's what sold me, because that's where you get a feel, a liveliness to the recording with mic placement. And this high ceiling and these beautiful floors. And there was space for the amps to ring out and space for the drums to ring out. And you got this wonderful reverb. And when I went to his website and started looking at the stuff he had done and looking at the gear and continued talking, it's like, hey, man, I saw you did this. And I went and listened to this Nick Waterhouse record he did. And he's like, yeah, that's this Gibson amp that's over here. Use that on the whole thing. And I did this. And I'm like, that sound is it. And we just started nerding out with one another. And then we started just having conversations about pedals. And you realize this is my nerd soulmate. And he got what I was after and what I was trying to do with Americana roots music as an organ trio instead of a traditional bass, two guitars, drums, whatever. And when we got in there, that's why we were able to do it in 48 hours. We had all the conversations before. And he had demos of stuff I'd recorded on my phone. And he had great ideas about mic placement. And you'll hear it on July 19th when you buy 220 copies of the Kessler Theater. Like listening to it today, we're like, it took us back to, like, we can't believe all but one song on that record we made in 48 hours. We did the other one, which is an instrumental, here at Sunland Sound in Dallas, because I wasn't going to take the whole band back to Memphis to do one. But Scott still produced it and mixed all the tracks. So
were y'all setting up in that room just one run all together and then do vocals later? Or
I cut vocals.
You were doing it all in one run?
Everything was live.
Man, like I said, I went to audio engineering school a long time ago. Never worked in a studio. I just realized, the guys that work in there that are great at what they do, you've got to be all about it. You're a nerd on such a deep level that you're like researching the codings of the wires in the board or something. You know what I mean? Like you're these guys, you're going deep into forums with other nerds like you. It's like the truly great ones. It's like, I'll never be like that ever. I love music, but I don't love the process on that level that they do.
Right.
And but I knew enough. It's like, I can set up a little podcast studio, but I feel like every time I hear records like that, where the engineer, the studio, the producer, let them, come in as one and get it done that way, there is always, you get more of that feel that you do, like when I see you at Sundown on stage, where you're used to playing with each other. And it's like, I know a lot of great records have been made, tracked separately. I'm not saying it can't be done, obviously, but like I think Alabama Shake's first album was done. I don't know if it was all done that way. Like I'm sure they came back and did vocals and some dubs, but I think the core of it, they were in this house where they're just kind of in different rooms of the house. and you still get kind of that air of the rooms
Yeah.
mixing in, and it's all, there's just something, again, it's just hard to explain. There's a feel with it.
It is.
And then you talk to the other music snobs who are like, you don't need a room with reverb. We can just put reverb on later.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know you can, but I prefer this room.
And
I like the room.
There is nothing, there's no, as long as you get to where you
Yeah.
want to get artistically, and it's the sound that's in your head, what is the best way to get to the sound that's in your head?
Yeah.
Or you'll never be happy with it. And you'll go back and listen to that record in 20 years and still not be happy with it.
Yeah. But those drums, like on the famous Led Zeppelin drums.
Yeah.
Where they strung them up at the top of that staircase, the mics at the top of the staircase for that reverb.
Yeah.
It's like, look, I know you're a talented engineer and you can go make that happen. But isn't it cooler that they were like, let's just throw some mics up there, man. Get what we get,
Yeah.
It's like one of the bands I was in, the guitar player had a fun 12-string Dan Electro
Yeah.
guitar.
Yeah.
With those little lipstick pickups.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like when he was doing this solo on this one song we were doing where it was like I'm playing an acoustic guitar and he's playing lead licks on this 12-string. And, he's playing on like a real, do you remember those vintage, or not vintage, I'm sorry. They were, did you ever see those Fender Excelsior amps?
Oh, yeah.
So he's playing through one of those,
Yeah.
and it's like, I don't remember what he had for distortion, but he's got like a big muff for when he wants to crank it. But on this, it was kind of more tasteful, like real light distortion, and it's like there was just this breakup from those lipstick pickups through that amp
Yeah.
that made these weird sounds.
That's a great combination.
You know what I'm saying? And it was
Yeah.
like, that's why you do the analog version of some things. Because
Absolutely.
every now and then there's going to be a weird, and it's like once he knew it broke that way, all of a sudden he's like, oh, so on this note, anytime I bend like that, I can make that happen. And it's like, oh yeah, well, you can try to make that happen in the studio, but that was way cooler. And something about that feel, it just happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can, those are things that you have to find in that, in that moment.
Yeah.
A lot of this record, for the overdrive, I used this. It's a pedal that Scott built. He designed it, and it's not available to the public yet.
See what I mean? This dude's nerd.
Yeah, yeah. And
that's why you're able to do that.
Yeah, and I was like I wasn't happy with like the overdrive I was getting from some of the pedals I brought down. He's like, wait, I've got this thing. This is the prototype. We tried it and listened to the playback. I was like, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. He said, well, let's do this. He had a Vibrachamp Fender amp, little 5-watt, and he ran it through an old Sears and Roebuck Silvertone 212 cabinet and dimed it. This little 5-watt amp. That and the overdrive of this pedal he built, that's the overdrive on that record. And it's this, I think it was like a 68 Vibrachamp, little tiny amp running through these Sears catalog speakers, and we got. And Matthew's playing a real Hammond B3, and we took the Leslie and put it in another room that was made of brick. And so driving that Leslie speaker in this brick and cement cinder block room, you got a whole different sound. And Spud's under just this one overhead mic, giant mic on it's like this, looks like a crane on a 67 Ludwig kit. And we're all there in the room. And what we got out of that it's special.
One mic on the drum set?
I believe that's right. Well, I could be wrong. Could be up to 3 now that I think
Well,
about
still,
it.
that's a very minimalistic.
Very minimalistic. And then we didn't go like Sun Studios level. Oh, here's this one microphone in the middle of the room. You all get around it. We're not going to go be barbarians. We have more than one microphone.
But there is a level of like, 3 mics gets it done.
Yeah.
Why do we need 4? Or whatever they decided to use.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, we could close mic every little thing here and blah, blah, blah. But it's like,
Absolutely.
or it's like, when I go watch you live, I'm hearing most of that drum kit all at the same time.
Yeah.
Let's do it that way.
Yeah.
It's like, I haven't been to a lot of live shows where people were like, I just wish the drums were isolated better. It's like even non-music people, they're not going to be like, I just feel like I could hear the floor tom better.
Yeah.
And,
there's a latency in your kick that I just, it just really wasn't dialed in for me. I'm like, okay.
I always love hearing about guys running their studios that way, where it's just they're not like the hardcore purist, like you said, but they appreciate like for the project, let's try it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's I think that's the beauty of music. But man, it's hard. I'm glad you found somebody good to work with.
I love it.
I shouldn't even say good, just that you click.
Yeah,
you
we do. And I know every time, you know, I get back to Memphis semi-regularly and I'll pop in and I was trying to get some. What sucks is that people are starting to find out how cool Memphis Magnetic is, and so it gets a little hard. I have to book out time. I used to be able to just get whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
But I'm like trying to get some time, and Scott's like, I can't. Al Green's in here making a record this week, and
come on.
I'm like, okay, well, what about this? Elvis Costello's in here for 2 weeks doing that, and then. It's Jack White hanging out in there making. Well, that guy can work anywhere he wants.
Doesn't he have his own studio?
Yes, why is he in there?
Get the fuck out of here, Jack.
Yeah, man, you're eating up my time, man.
Dude, that's the double edge, right? Is you're like you want that guy to succeed, but you're also like, hey, man, but I still need to. I still need to have full access anytime, right?
I always wear the hat of I'm responsible.
Yeah,
because of J.I.'s Evans The Boss Tweed, people know about Memphis Magnetic. I put you on the map. Which is not true at all. It's amazing. It's an amazing space, and he's a great engineer and great producer. And I love that town. It's great food. It's great hanging out. When I was a kid, we used to go up to Memphis to visit some family, and I didn't appreciate it. It's like, this is just where Elvis was, whatever. Mm-hmm. But as I got older and learned the history of the city and its real importance to creating American popular music, it's a jewel. It's wonderful.
Well, that whole area of the country, I know a lot of people appreciate that area for what it's done in music, but it still does feel like at times it's very underappreciated.
Yeah,
it's like the amount of survival that's had to go on from the people, that. What do we even call that now? Because it's not really like Appalachia or anything. It's like I don't know what area. It's not the South, but it's not like it's Louisiana either.
No.
It's just this weird little area that's its own thing.
Yeah.
And it's like snobs are like, oh, it's flyover states. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, but like you said, it's like no, there's like rich history here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of creativity that I think people tend to forget about from those areas. Because it's not a New York, it's not an LA, it's not shiny and like this stuff. But it's like, but that's not what it's about anyway.
It's more than just Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
People, they're like, well, what about Nashville? What about Nashville? Nashville's great. I love hot chicken. And I like Americana music. I like classic country music. I grew up on classic country. Mm-hmm. Not a big fan of pop country. But there's more than Nashville to that region, between Memphis, Little Rock, into Kentucky, Louisville, Cincinnati, into Ohio and up into Pennsylvania. There's just this incredible musical tradition that happens all through that region. And it's roots American music. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it happens because of the Mississippi River. And that's at the core of it. And
I didn't think about that. All the industry it brings and the communities that are built around it. Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's what it is. I think you forget that that's real blue collar. Like you're seeing real Americans. This is the way they live.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It's Dallas, right? It's a hard city to live in because it's not a hard city to live in. But I mean, when you compare it to that, it's like here everything. There's a lot of that fake shiny.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Keep Dallas plastic,
right?
Not the same.
Exactly. Yeah. And so there's a lot of easy traps to fall into here of getting a little too uppity.
We've always torn down our history here,
right?
And I think that kind of ties back into the conversation we were having earlier about why we can't make this a music city. Mm-hmm. Stevie Ray Vaughan may have been from Oak Cliff, but he's more Austin than he is Dallas,
right?
And
that's where the statue is, right?
Yeah.
Did Dallas throw anything here for him? It's kind of how like a totally different lane of music, but it's like Pantera. It's like oh my gosh, how am I blanking on his name? The Dimebag Darrell. Yeah. It's like he's in magazines around the world, literally around the world, as this whether you like him or not, he was this influential guitarist at the time. But I grew up here around DFW, and it's like we didn't know he was from here for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, unless you were in Arlington,
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, that's Arlington's probably the only one that really represented him hardcore. Like he's from here.
It's
So you're right. Yeah.
Dallas has the potential to be a truly great music city. Somebody asked me, it was for an interview for some magazine, about South by Southwest was going to announce that they were moving away from music. And they were talking to Dallas bands and musicians that had played South by. So they sent me the question and said, do you think Dallas can fill the void? And I was like, I hate to be the Debbie Downer here, but the answer is no. Will people come here to see a music festival? Yes, but you've got to get the people of Dallas
Right.
to get behind that music festival. And you have to have the infrastructure and the clubs and the venues. And you have to have Dallasites that want to come see these bands they've never heard of. Now, if you threw a cover band festival, Dallas would sell out of tickets.
I don't know why that. I mean, I 100% agree with you. I was having this, you know, I told you, I just had this owner on for a comedy club in Fort Worth, Big Laugh Comedy Club. Yeah. And he's going through this thing right now where, you know, there's all these disputes about, you know, if he's paid people, not paid people, blah, blah, blah. And all that's, it's none of my business. That's all private. I'm not going to weigh in on that. Yeah. But what I do think is going to be tough for that club is he lives in Austin and the club's in Fort Worth. And he's trying to run both. Right. And that's doable. You can make that happen. Yeah. But I think especially a town like Fort Worth, right, which is different than Dallas. You know, if a Fort Worth person does not want to be confused with Dallas, with Dallas culture. No. But when you go to Fort Worth still feels like a big city that's a small town. Yeah. And that's what you love about it. Yeah. And so I worry, it's like, you know, can you properly weave yourself into the fabric of Fort Worth to where you are viewed as this community person? I'm a small business owner of the community. I'm a Fort Worth business, you know, or will you always be viewed as the person who's doing it from Austin? And, you know, and is that going to be a barrier to acceptance? Right. And I think that's definitely what Dallas struggles with, right? The venues we were talking about, it's like the people that know about double wide or like we live here in East Dallas. Yeah. So we go to single wide more. Yeah. But it's like, if you know those places, you love those places. Absolutely. They are part of your community, you know? And it's like, I don't know any of the people when I go in there, but we all feel like neighbors in those bars, right? And
Lakewood Landing.
The only reason I didn't say that is like, shh. Shh. Don't tell them that one. But yeah, so like I said, we're in East Dallas. Yeah. That's the spot. I mean, it's this studio being like, what, quarter of a mile from Lakewood Landing right now. Yeah. That was a big sign of like, I think it's going to be a good spot. Yeah. Yeah. Just the vibe of the, you know, and, but yeah. And so I think maybe that's what it is. Maybe if Dallas really wants to be that music town, it's like, you've got these club owners, you've got these bookers, you've got these people who care. Yeah. But we got to find ways to like, you know, how does double wide become even more of a household name for all of Dallas proper? Yeah. You know, cause, Kessler's kind of doing that, right? Yeah, Kessler's doing that. Yeah, we're here in East Dallas. We don't mind making that drive over there for something good. Absolutely. You know? And I guess maybe that's the solution, is figuring out how do you get some of that plastic out to where your things feel like your neighborhood things. You know,
I don't know, but it's really frustrating because you see all of the potential.
Yeah. I've been talking about potential for 10 years around here. I'm sick of talking about potential. Yeah. Because there's no reason it shouldn't be a hub.
Absolutely. We have the venues. We have venues that care. Evan Winston at 3 Links.
We have venues who have made it through hard times when they shouldn't have. Absolutely. Just because of ownership.
Yes. Evan, Kim Finch at Double Wide and Single Wide. These are owners that care so much and want to put on great events, and their staff cares. And Dallas needs to support these venues and support bands that are homegrown playing there, support touring bands that are coming through there with local support on the bill. Yeah. Go see them. Yeah, it's great that you want to go see whoever's playing at the AC. That's awesome. But there's also fantastic music that you're going to discover if you go see live music at these small venues and clubs. That's not just a cover band. That cover band is living off royalties. Or the band that they're covering is living off those royalties forever. They're fine.
Yeah.
Go find your new favorite band and go support them. Buy a T-shirt. That keeps us on the road.
Yeah. Do you think we could ever put together some kind of a like local band festival and actually draw people to it to kind of start, stoking those embers of that? Or is it still just so much of an uphill battle? You got to get some other things handled first.
I'm going to say that it's possible because I want to be positive about it. Mm-hmm. I don't want this to all just be negative down on Dallas and supporting music. I know the bands are there to pull it off.
I feel like the closest thing we get is when they throw bands on those beer fest things that we have.
Yeah.
You get a lot of things like that. And like State Fair, they usually try to have their local stage. And, and I feel like there's these people trying. They're trying. And I'm forever wondering, what is that little ingredient, we're missing? Because, like you said, lots of great bands.
Yeah.
Lots of people, venues, bookers, managers who care.
Yeah. Really
care. And we have great studios here too.
Yeah.
And so it's like you got all. What do we need? We just need a little pepper on it. What are we doing here?
The format of the Deep Ellum block party this last year. Mm-hmm. I played the first year of it, which I think was one of the last 40 Acre Mule shows. It was all on this one stage, and this last year I did it with Boss Tweed, and they had it in the venues in Deep Ellum. There was one big stage. I think. Yeah. Polyphonic Spree was on.
Which street was it on down there? Do you remember?
I think it was on Main.
Okay.
I want to say the stage was on Main.
Was it down closer to like 7-Eleven or closer to
closer to 7-Eleven?
Okay.
Yeah, that's where the big stage was.
Okay.
But the venues, all night long, Trees had shows, and their shows were staggered. So you could go into 3 Links and see a set, and then go across the street and see. I think we played, and Daryl played, and King Clam played, like all over Deep Ellum. That's kind of a cool way to do it. And you had all these local bands playing. You had some pretty big headliners on the big outside stage, and that brought people down. But then people stayed to go to these other shows. So there are people trying to make it happen. It wasn't flawless. It didn't run like clockwork.
Was this the first year?
Of that format, yes.
Yeah.
I know they're going to do it again this year, and I have very cautious hopes for the Deep Ellum block party to kind of bridge that gap a little bit.
Yeah, because it's like them and what is it? Deep Ellum Arts Festival. It's like they try to get those stages on the streets and do that thing.
Yeah, and
again, it's like there's a little tiny, but when you go, it's like I'm having a good time. It's not that it ever feels bad. Yeah. You're just wondering, what this would be better. What is it? I don't know what though. You know. But Deep Ellum, I kind of wonder. It's like, do you close off one street? Because I really do feel like Dallas specifically. I don't want to do this big metroplex sprawl. No. Dallas, Fort Worth, Denton. No. All, those places are great. Yeah. But it's too wide. It's too vast.
This isn't a FIFA World Cup situation.
No. I think we got to pick. The 3 streets of Deep Ellum.
Yeah.
And I think you find a way to do, 4 stages, pick Main or Commerce or Main or Elm, whatever you want to do. Yeah. Or, so where you can walk and get there. Don't make them too far down, right?
Yeah.
And then, like you said, have the bands in those venues to where it's just like, hey, these 2 streets are shut down.
The whole festival's walkable.
For this weekend. And if you're a bar or restaurant, it's like you're either open for business to sell the things, or if it's not your style, like if you're hopefully even if you're a clothing store, you're like, heck yeah, we're open, let's do it. But if you feel like closing, it's like, hey, these 2 days you're not open, I'm sorry.
But then you're still fighting this uphill fight against City Hall itself. You look at what's happening on Commerce, where that construction's been going on so long.
My studio was down there at Common Desk, and it was a blessing that I moved over here when I did, because it was right when I moved, they dug up that street, maybe 6 months later or something. And you would have had nowhere to, I would have been like, so if you park like 3 blocks down and walk and just watch out for the holes,
don't fall into the giant construction pit.
And how many businesses are on that street that are dealing with that? I
watched like Connie Rosso, St. Pete's, 8 Airs, Freeman. We were talking about Freeman earlier. Mm-hmm. All of these businesses, they're just struggling to stay alive. Think of what a very well executed festival like that could do without having to fight the construction mess that apparently is going to go on into late 26.
Good God. Is a street that difficult? I mean,
guess
come on.
so.
We're here in North Texas.
Yeah,
There's got to be a mixture of some good old boys and some Hispanic guys who can knock this
thing
out. You know,
you guys got 48 hours to get this done. We need 24.
Jesus,
yeah,
man.
There's something constantly in the way, and it comes back around to Dallas is getting in its own way.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that. So we can sit here and come up with the best ideas for that festival to work.
Sure.
But then there's one of the main streets that you need to pull it off is a giant hole in the ground. And it's like, oh yeah, there's that. So where do people park?
Yeah.
Well,
I've been saying that for years. Somebody within the city, so here in East Dallas, for people who don't know, we're near this place called White Rock Lake. It's a beautiful public lake. It's got trails all around it. And the city has been investing in all of these trails connecting to other trails. So like if you're a cyclist, if you're a runner, if you just like to walk, it's like you can get from these places that are literally, 10, 15, 20 miles away now and ride this trail here. That doesn't make you any money, right? Like we're not paying to use this trail. But doesn't it make you money? Because now this community, it's like, oh my God, they've got these amenities, you know? And what they need to figure out how to do down in Deep Elm, they need to buck up whoever it is, raise the money somehow, parking garage.
Yeah.
We just need a parking garage that has some security in it. Build it over some of our great buildings down there that we can keep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
don't have to bulldoze anything. I mean, I know this is like, I'm sitting here going like, just put up a garage. Like it's not millions and millions of dollars.
Right.
But it's like you could make it feel safer, feel more accessible, and then you're going to make that back on that tax revenue from these business.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And it's like, just do. Fort Worth has those free garages down in Sundance.
It's a game changer.
It is. That is one of the big differences between if I go to Fort Worth, it's like, oh, it's not going to be a big deal. Anywhere I'm walking, I can go hit that garage.
Yep.
In worst case scenario, I park on a meter, but because so many people are in the garage, there might be a meter available.
Yeah.
And it's like, somehow they got to figure out how to buck up that money.
I've just never understood why. There's kind of a garage near Adair's and Freeman that's been built, ish. Some nights it's $20 depending on if there's a show.
Well, that's the other problem too. It's like you want to help these venues. It shouldn't be $40 out of my pocket before I even buy a beer.
Yeah. This isn't AT&T Stadium.
No, it's like there's got to be free parking down there available.
Yeah.
It's like people like us, it's like I know where the free parking is.
Yeah.
But there's not much of it, so I can't tell you.
There's this one parking lot, and I'm about to throw them under the bus because I've had it with this one parking lot. It's adjacent. It's right across from Punch Bowl Social and like Connie Rosa. Mm-hmm. And that's
talking about the one right under the bridge.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is a public parking lot, and there's an event space that's right at the end of that block. It's between Connie Rosso and Adair's.
Mm-hmm.
And without fail, they somehow lease out the entire parking lot, and it's only for their private event.
Right.
BS on that.
Yeah.
That is a public parking lot. You and your people going to that venue get a space or you don't. Yeah. But it's accessible. It should be accessible to everybody that's coming to Deep Ellum.
I mean, look, that one's under a bridge, so you can't do it. But that parking lot right there next to the 7-Eleven on that same area, Good Latimer and Main and Elm, right?
Yeah.
Why is that not a 6-story
vertical perfect spot
let's
for
go.
A vertical parking
It's been
structure.
a blank parking lot forever. I know a company owns it. Work out a deal.
Yeah.
And buy them out, build it.
Yeah.
And then let's have some like $2 parking. Could we?
Could
we?
One of those on each end of Deep Ellum changes everything.
Everything. Because you will park there and you will walk.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's really because they do what they can with the safety. It's like there's usually a police presence down there. And it's like, look, you can't be throwing everybody in jail every night. It's a rowdy area. I feel like they do a good job of letting some things slide.
Yeah.
It's like, but maybe let's get the 40 ATVs out of the middle of the intersection.
Yeah. We got it. Let's not turn into Houston here.
It's like this dude blasting his stereo right now. I don't care about that. Yeah. Have fun, dude. You're not a Deep Ellum. We need a little bit of wild debauchery here.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, it's like you almost running over this person in the crosswalk while you're doing your wheelie. Come on, man.
That's a thing.
Take that down to the West End.
Yeah. Plenty of room down there right now.
Anyway, dude, listen, I've taken up too much of your time. I appreciate it so much.
This was so fun.
Yeah, you're welcome back anytime. Remind me the show date.
July 19th, Kessler Theater, J. Isaiah Evans The Boss Tweed, and Low Cut Connie, presented by KXT. It's our album release party where all 220 copies of that record.
We're selling 220. We got to do this.
We're selling them out.
And then we reorder.
Yes, from that we reorder, and my wife lets me sleep inside.
There we go. Well, dude, pleasure talking to you.
This is
Great
so
meeting
fun.
you finally.
You
Thank you
too.
so much, man.
The I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more.